Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. We are about to start the program. We'll start with introductions, self-introduction. So with your permission, President, if you start.
I'm Professor Kofi Opoku, President of the Academy.
I am Professor Boa Basua, member of the Academy.
I'm Professor Alfred Otin-Yeboah, Fellow of the Academy, and Chairman of the Chairman of the Natural Resources, Environment, and Energy chapter of the Academy.
My name is Mustafa Seidu. I'm a lawyer that I work for Nature and Development Foundation.
Going around like that. I'm Nana SKB Asante, a past president of the Academy.
Thank you.
I'm Emerita Professor Isabella Kwachi, Vice President of the Sciences section of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences.
I'm Bena Hunu, Fellow of the Academy.
Feliciano Sabebio from Soil Research Institute.
Patrick Ansentry, member of Ghana Institution of Engineering.
Thank you.
I'm Charles Ansre, Research Officer.
Felix Lati, Finance Officer of the Academy.
Samuel Kwisindru, Internal Auditor, Academy.
I'm Kweku Opompepra, RTI Officer for the Academy.
I am MFA Oponiwalate, Principal Admin Assistant, Staff of GAAS.
Mavis Nan, Internal Auditor.
Samuel Davis Coker, a staff.
Makafu Ilecha, Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences.
Good morning, I'm Christian Yale, a reporter from TV3.
Edna Salbokoti, Daily Graphic.
Hi, I'm Daniel Polly, a reporter from Radio Universe.
Lysia Mwakwa-Yeboah from the Sikaman Times.
Ebogoman, Ghanaian Times.
Albert Datsun, National Service.
Osekujo Jr., IT and Multimedia Officer, Ghana Academy of Arts and Science.
Akila Kwasoya, and Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences.
Thank you very much. So without much ado, I'll call Professor Alfred Otin-Yeboah, the convener, to the podium. Thank you, sir.
President of the Academy, Vice Presidents of the Academy, Fellows of the Academy, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, but particularly colleagues from the media. We are happy and very pleased to have you here. The reasons being that we want to outdoor our statement on the issue of mining within this country. I am speaking as the chair of the Natural Resources, Environment, and Energy chapter of the Academy. It has been our responsibility to fish out issues that relate to the environment, energy, and natural resources for the attention of the Academy, so that we'll be able to look at these and provide support for governance. The Academy is the foremost merit-based learned society in this country and is committed to national development and advancement of our world. Every year, the Academy spends time and resources to bring people together to address topical issues for national development. And we do this through 3 principal statutory flagship programs named after distinguished Ghanaians, Dr. J.B. Dankwa, Dr. Ephraim Amu, and Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. So we have these memorial lectures every year. In addition to this, we organize public forums to discuss other issues that are on the lips of Ghanaians, because we listen very carefully, and use radio, electronic, and print media in order to create awareness. We have also had time to provide occasional and inaugural lectures that are delivered by experts and fellows. Now, the Natural Resources chapter, Natural Resources, Environment and Energy chapter, got motivated to bring this important issue of mining to the table. When I talk of the table, I'm referring to the membership or the fellowship of the Academy. I, in particular, have had very special interest on issues of the environment and sustainable development. And so when this issue came up, we took up the challenge, particularly of surface mining, because we noted that Ghana was not paying sufficient attention to these life-threatening issues that are connected to it. We concentrated mostly on the menace of the illegal aspect of galamsey operations that are wreaking unimaginable destruction of our environment that sustains life, thus leaving Ghanaians exposed to all kinds of risks from water, air, and soil pollution, including aspects of the human and environmental health implications, livelihood destruction, and the rest. I must indicate here that the Academy is a non-political and a non-partisan learning society and think tank, and therefore most of our pronouncements are pronouncements that are for the betterment of our country. We are ready to collaborate on policy and research projects, and we call on government and others to fund lots of projects which are churned out from the Academy. You have an information brochure with you which contains the statement. Now, at the back of that brochure, you would see that there's a long list of work that had been done by fellows in the areas of the environment. I believe you take some time to just flip through to see what the Academy's role has been in terms of looking at issues of the environment in our country. Now, the statement that you are about to read, or that is going to be read by our president, sums up the views of the entire fellowship of the Academy. And it is being presented as our contribution to this national discourse on galamsey. In fact, I searched through the literature to find what galamsey meant. And in the dictionary, it said it doesn't exist. But definitely those of us in Ghana, we know that it exists. Now we believe that calling you together here to listen to our part of the story as far as containing this evil that exists in our country, we believe that the battle is never lost. So you are welcome, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much, Professor Tinyaboa. Very, very good things for us to think about. And I stand on his protocols and say, past president of the academy, vice presidents, fellows, media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it's really our pleasure to welcome you here. And I want to first start, before I read the statement, I want to just make a few introductory comments. First of all, a lot of thank yous. I thank the chapter, as the chairman has said, for initiating this activity. And then it went to the arts section, which had a committee that worked on it. And then finally to council, editorial team, and the fellows for your interest and commitment to this project. I also want to thank the attendees for coming here under such a short notice. I think you were invited early this week. And also for joining us on a Friday. Many people on Fridays are traveling to different places and so on. So we really appreciate your coming. And for the media, I want to ask that you give us maximum exposure. I'm told that most media events don't happen on Fridays, but we are an exception. So take it and do your best to support it so that we can overcome the end of week syndrome and make this a top story during the weekend and beyond. We're asking you to be our partners to support our effort, the beginning effort, and help to make it better and give us more exposure for this activity. My last comment has to deal with the words catastrophe and disaster. It appears many times in this statement. And we need to think about it because what is happening, maybe there's an equivalent of a different type. And it happened more than 250 years ago, where the same words were used, catastrophe, disaster, happened on our continent. And you might imagine that some ships come to the shore, they bring guns, and then some go out into the countryside and capture people and send them out. That was the galamsey of that era. And you should ask yourself, if you were around at that time, what would you have done to stop that catastrophe or disaster? So what we are seeing is the beginning of another great catastrophe. And if we sit there as observers, then history will say that it happened, and what were the people around doing at that time? What did they do to stop that catastrophe? Just as we ask, what did our forefathers do to stop slavery and the impoverishment of our continent? With those words, let me now read the statement. It's a long statement, so I'll do it in several parts. There are some parts I will skip so that we can have the momentum. Then there are some parts I will spend time on. I will talk about the introduction. There's also a brief review of the legal framework. I'll skip a lot of it and go to the bottom of that section. And then we'll discuss the concerns of the academy, the way forward, and finally, the an agenda for reclamation and rehabilitation, and then the conclusion. So without further ado, let me start to read the statement. Introduction. Ghana is on the brink of an environmental, health, and social disaster as a result of illegal mining. We are rapidly approaching the precipice, despite the effort by successive governments to address this menace. The latest fight against galamsey has failed in spite of the legal institutional framework that was put in place. For instance, although the Minerals and Mining Amendment Act 2019, Act 995, was passed to specifically redefine the offense of illegal mining, including illegal small-scale mining such as galamsey, and to provide punishment for it, the government has proved unwilling, unable, and/or reluctant to enforce the law. The two versions of Operation HALT, the military operation to root out illegal mining, have also petered out. The thrust of the high-profile efforts to stop illegal mining revolved around arresting some of the operators and seizing or burning their equipment, which have not only proved ineffective, but have also posed environmental, health, and social challenges. Illegal mining has a very large footprint in the form of campsites, heavy-duty earth-moving equipment, processing plants, and large communities of migrant laborers that must be fed and housed. This begs three questions, namely, how can heavy equipment reach illegal mining sites without detection? How can large volumes of fuel and materials reach illegal mining sites without detection? And how can financiers, providing the large amounts of money necessary for illegal mining, conduct their financing and investment of activities without detection? Illegal mining continues to thrive because the kingpins who supply and fund the operations have not been vigorously pursued and prosecuted. More detective work to identify and hold the financiers and suppliers liable for illegal mining should be the centerpiece of a rejuvenated fight against galamsey. Civil society has made countless demands on successive governments, ranging from simply enforcing the law to possibly confiscating lands on which the activity occurs. Some traditional authorities have taken it upon themselves to prevent surface mining activities within their jurisdictions, challenging or invalidating licenses and permits issued by government bodies. Some traditional authorities have destooled or threatened to destool chiefs who are complicit in or condone galamsey activities in their jurisdictions. Meanwhile, there's a continued upsurge of galamsey in our rural communities, stimulating truancy among school-going males and loss of lives and injuries as a result of the collapse of galamsey pits, while the environment is being degraded with impunity. The scale and extent of surface mining, with or without official license, buttressed with the use of arms and offensive weapons to protect workers, property, and equipment, are a major threat to national security, peace, and stability. Against this backdrop, the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, GAAS, can no longer sit in silence. The Academy is therefore appealing as a matter of urgency to the executive, parliament, the judiciary, and non-state actors, such as the National House of Chiefs, Trade Union Congress, civil society, professional associations, media, faith-based organizations, and students to take collective action to stop the existential threat posed by illegal mining. A review of the basic legal framework. As I said, I will skip some of that and move to the bottom part. In short, the act that governs the operation of mines has effective methods, good mining practices, and health and safety rules and protection for the environment. Regrettably, however, successive governments have simply been incapable of translating these fine rules into action. There has been an inexplicable unpreparedness, unwillingness, and/or inability of the governments to apply and enforce the law, set up the required structures, and resource them to work well. These, in part, account for the lack of proper regulation in the industry. A major drawback to the legal framework is the passage of the Environmental Protection Mining in the Forest Reserve Regulation 2022 LI 2462, which allows unfettered access to the forest reserves of the country through the granting of forest entry permits for mining by the Forestry Commission. LI 2462 was intended to bridge the gaps in environmental regulation in the mining sector and replace the inadequate and unclear guidelines of the Environmental Protection Agency that had governed mining in forest reserves since 2000. We consider this legislation to be inimical to good mining practices and environmental sustainability because it has the potential to attract more unregulated mining investment into the forest reserves. This situation is compounded by doubts about the capacity of the Forestry Commission to implement and enforce mining regulations. Concerns of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. GAAS is deeply concerned about the current crisis generated by the wanton destruction of our environment by surface mining. The Academy is concerned that the environment that provides all the natural resources for our well-being as a people is being destroyed and that citizens have become powerless, watching, and not able to do anything about it. GAAS concerns are because, 1, the topsoils in vegetated areas and the volume and quality of water in the riverbeds and other water bodies contain all the necessary elements of biotic nature, that's the living resources, including plants, animals, mushrooms, and microbes, and abiotic nature, non-living resources such as soil, winds, currents, temperatures, essential chemicals, example, carbon, oxygen, rocks, substrates, and sediments. These elements create a sustainable soil and water structure for production. 3, production is maintained because of the delicate and intricate balance between these elements. 4, it is through sustained production that energy, captured and accumulated in food substances and other materials, and matter, assimilated substances that create growth and which are noted as productivity, are distributed in a structured manner to create an ecosystem. 5, terrestrial and aquatic productivity is maintained in natural environments, on agricultural and plantation fields, and in fishery locations in rivers, lakes, ponds, lagoons, estuaries, and the shallow and deep waters of the ocean. 6, the disruption of this ecosystem arrangement reduces productivity and compromises the environment. 7, the loss of productivity reduces and/or completely depletes the goods and services that the ecosystem can provide for socioeconomic development. 8, water bodies are destroyed, water is polluted, and potable water is unavailable or difficult to find. This generation is therefore creating conditions to deprive our children, grandchildren, and future generations of water, a basic necessity for survival. 9, the health of communities in areas with surface mining is compromised, and hitherto uncommon diseases and medical conditions associated with heavy metal poisoning, including cancers, birth defects, kidney dysfunction, and nervous system disorders, are aggressively manifesting themselves in our communities. And 10, the phenomenon described in 6, 7, 8, and 9 are occurring in almost all parts of Ghana at alarming rates and as a result of surface mining. GAAS demands that this situation be addressed immediately to prevent a future catastrophe of human suffering from this environmental damage to our landscapes and waterscapes. The way forward. Crisis times and situations of this kind demand very drastic policy actions, especially when Ghana is committed to sustainable development as declared in signed multilateral environmental agreements such as the Sustainable Development Goals Agenda 2030, the Africa We Want Agenda 2063, the Paris Agreement on Climate Change, and the Montreal Kunming Global Biodiversity Framework. We are aware that illegal mining and the destruction of our forests are driven by economic as well as political factors. There's a lack of jobs, and therefore attempts to stop illegal mining will face serious resistance since livelihoods will be threatened. However, there's a need for effective regulation and a strong political will to ensure that livelihoods are not unduly threatened, while the wanton destruction of the environment is curtailed. Truth be told, funding of political parties has benefited from illegal mining, and politicians have flouted regulations on mining with impunity. We demand that going forward, all political party manifestos explicitly state how the parties intend to address this menace. We will hold them responsible and accountable during their term of office. We demand that traditional authorities educate and mobilize their people to combat illegal mining in their jurisdiction. And we call upon civil society to always hold miners environmentally accountable. Accordingly, GAAS demands that government implement the following policy actions. 1, declare a moratorium on all kinds of surface mining activities around river bodies. 2, revoke all reconnaissance and prospecting licenses, mining leases, and small-scale mining licenses in forest reserves and other fragile ecosystems such as key biodiversity areas. 3, revoke the Environmental Protection Mining in Forest Reserve Regulation 2022, LI 2462. And 4, establish a plan for land reclamation in all areas destroyed by illegal mining and other forms of surface mining. A moratorium of 10 years or more around river bodies would allow the fragile ecosystem to recover from the destruction. This may not guarantee full recovery in the areas affected, but it will at least help to rebuild resilience of those components of our ecosystems, including water bodies and forest reserves, to support ongoing efforts at reducing biodiversity loss, contribute to adaptation to and mitigation of climate change, avoid land and water degradation, and support the global goal of the decade on ecosystem restoration from 2021 to 2030. Surface mining, especially in forest reserves, defeats the main purpose of such reserves because it undermines the fabric of sustainability of the ecosystem in areas where the livelihoods of our local people are guaranteed. When this happens, the subsistence rural economy of the people disintegrates and they become deprived, leading to extreme poverty. Therefore, there is therefore the need to conduct an immediate forensic environmental audit of all surface prospecting licenses, mining leases, and small-scale mining licenses in forest reserves. Any license or leaseholder found to have breached the environmental regulations should immediately lose the license or lease. Those in good standing should be offered new concessions outside of the forest reserves and given the necessary support to enable them to reestablish their operations in new locations. During the transitional period, they should be subjected to more rigorous environmental monitoring and assessment to ensure that the harm is either eliminated or drastically reduced. Certainly, there should be no renewals if their leases and licenses in the forest reserves expire before they are completely relocated. We at the Academy, while the Academy would have demanded immediate revocation of licenses and leases in forest reserves, we are fully aware of the legal implications. We know that investors aggrieved by the revocation of licenses, leases, licenses, and permits may resort to litigation. That is why the Academy is proposing an audit-based revocation, strict implementation of the laws, allocation of new concessions to operators in good standing, and non-renewal of licenses and leases when they expire. The Academy finds the enactment of LI 2462 not simply a troubling contradiction, but a completely tone-deaf response to the problem of illegal mining. It beggars belief that when we have proven to be so incapable of regulating illegal mining in open spaces, the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology and Innovation and the Board of the Environmental Protection Agency, without the necessary stakeholder consultation, will send subsidiary legislation to Parliament in 2022 to license mining in already fragile forest reserves. It is even more shocking that Parliament dropped the ball by allowing this LI to gestate without annulling it under Article 11, Section 7 powers enshrined in the 1992 Constitution to protect Ghanaians. The Academy demands the immediate revocation of LI 2462. It was enacted in extreme bad faith. What it seeks to do is not in the best interest of the people of Ghana. The conservation of forest is in fact meant for posterity, generations of Ghanaians yet unborn, and it can foster future scientific research to provide solutions to the three global environmental crises, namely climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. Literally, the entry into forests and other reserve landscapes goes against all programs of work with the multilateral environmental agreements to prevent land and water degradation, advance adaptation and mitigate climate change, and reduce and stop biodiversity loss. An agenda for reclamation and rehabilitation. As a nation, we are at a crossroad. GAAS therefore wishes to impress upon both government and stakeholders the urgency of adopting the following measures while we rethink the best way to exploit our natural resources. 1. A geospatial analysis over a 10-year period using remote sensing geographic information systems to show the open source of illegal mining in our landscapes and waterscapes and assess the damage to our habitats. 2. A national audit of the soils and water bodies polluted by agrochemicals and hazardous organometallic chemicals such as mercury from mining. There should be suggested solutions by experts to address the problem. 3. A survey for an assessment of microplastic suspensions floating in our fresh and marine water bodies, which are consumed by aquatic organisms and eventually enter our food chain. 4. A survey of health implications for communities in the surface mining areas, and an assessment of the impact of mining on the health of the people so affected. And 5. A survey of livelihood losses of communities affected by mining and an estimate of socio-economic implications, such as the loss of employment, especially for the youth. We believe that these surveys and analysis will put Ghana in a better position to assess the damage done and to come up with a comprehensive plan of action to reclaim our health, lands, and forests. In making these demands, we remind the government that state and non-state institutions whose mandates are to protect and secure the peaceful functioning of the Ghanaian environmental space should be adequately resourced and should not be under any political influence or pressure whatsoever. Conclusion. Illegal mining is destroying the country's lands, rivers, and forests. Although mining has been practiced over decades in Ghana, the wanton environmental destruction has taken a new dimension with adverse consequences, such as the destruction of water bodies and farmlands, and the use of hazardous chemicals with long-term damage to our health and vital organs. As we have seen, half-hearted attempts to stop illegal mining will not work. What is required is effective regulation and its enforcement, which must be backed by strong political will and commitment, a common understanding of the threats posed by illegal mining, and a stakeholder consensus on the way forward. This is a clarion call to all Ghanaians to rally behind a good cause that holds government and community leaders accountable. Collective and sustained efforts are required to deal with the menace of illegal mining. We invite the media to commence and sustain a strong movement that names and shames persons who are found to be behind this menace, while highlighting and rewarding those strongly at the forefront of fighting illegal mining. We also invite Parliament, the judiciary, and non-state actors, such as the National House of Chiefs, Trade Union Congress, civil society, professional associations, faith-based organizations, and students, indeed, the entire Ghanaian populace, to join forces in combating illegal mining and its deleterious effects, which pose an existential threat to all of us and future generations. The Academy is committed and ready to collaborate with all stakeholders in the fight to stop illegal mining and its destructive effects on our people and our land. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the President of the Academy. The statement has been issued, and this is the sole view of the Academy. It is not one person's view. It's the full view of the Academy behind the statement. Now, we have called you here, and I believe there are some areas which we would like to either clear your minds about based on this statement that has been given. We'll open the floor. If there are comments, we'll welcome them. If there are suggestions, we'll welcome them. And if there are questions, I will plead that the questions will relate to what has been presented to you here. So, the floor is open. And the microphone will go around. When you get the microphone, please introduce yourself so we will know who is making a suggestion, a comment, or asking a question. Thank you.
Please, the floor is open.
Yes, Prof. I hear from the statement about concerns with respect to health and the heavy metals that may be found in the food chains and our water bodies. Do we have any idea whether any research findings have been done, especially those of us in Accra? We feel we are very far from the mining pit, whether some of the heavy metals have found their way into the food we buy in Accra and the water we drink in Accra. In that way, those of us in Accra and the big houses will not feel that we are far away. Is there any research or is there any plan to do something like this?
So we'll take some more questions and then.
My name is Architect Josephine Isikbesesem. My question has to do with the issue of data, whether we have the data on the mining activities, and as mentioned by Prof, the geospatial distribution of all these mining activities. And then I would have loved to hear that the issue is also concerned with settlements, although it mentioned river bodies and health issues. I would love to know how close these activities are to villages, towns, etc., and how homes and farmlands, etc., are being destroyed and what we have to do about them. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Raimondo Uswechang from Conservation Alliance International. Since the Academy is made up of researchers, I want to find out how you are leveraging with other research institutions so that next time GAAS is talking, we have a body of data and information, as my other colleague said. How are you leveraging postgraduate students, PhD students to be able to also get more data, which I think you can also leverage? How are you going about it to get more data so that we can inform government and defend our cause when it comes to illegal mining?
I want to respond briefly to the first question, that is to do with whether there is any evidence of contamination of any of these organoporine or metallic compounds on the foods that are distributed in Accra. The answer is simply the situation in which food distribution is conducted in the country. When you go out there to Aluk or any of our markets, there's no possibility of knowing where a particular foodstuff has come from. And this is why the kind of awareness we are raising here is very important. That one will not go sleeping, that because we are not living near a mining area, we are secure. In fact, we want to say, and of course bring attention to the whole country, that we are not secure because of the proliferation of many of these chemicals in our environment. You see, chemicals get picked up by roots of plants. Sometimes they get only onto the surface, particularly if you are only interested in using leaves. But when they get picked up by roots, it means that they become like, when you take food, the food gets ingested. And the outcome is that the nutrients in the food get passed into the parts of the body. The same way, when the roots pick up any of these chemicals that we are referring to, they get distributed throughout the whole body. And the cycle of movement of materials, starting from the leaves, from the roots to leaves, through flower production, through fruit formation, through seed setting. It's very easy for these chemicals to just enter into every part. And therefore, since we do not have the mechanism of detecting, like many of the advanced countries do have, we only have to work on the level of caution. And if the source of food that you are picking, if you can be bold to ask, where has this come from? If it's not coming from your own backyard, but it's coming from elsewhere, I think one has to be bold to ask, where did you collect this from? But that is not even enough. It's not enough, because whatever is in it cannot be detected by the eye. It can only be detected by atomic-based materials or equipment, like the way the Japanese are able to determine even the smallest fraction of any of our spraying these things which get into our cocoa. So again, we are actually bringing the caution that yes, we are living away, we are in Accra, we are living away from mining areas, but the chances are that we are consuming those types of foods. The other question about data. In fact, the difficulty we have in this country is paucity of data. People are not willing to share data, and the responsibility that the academy is attempting to bring to the minds of our colleagues, wherever they are, is that we ought to be in the position to share information. We ought to be in a position to share information, and that's another thing which the academy is very, very interested in. In fact, the academy has links with almost all the research institutions, because the people who make the academy, for your information, come from the universities, they come from the research institutes, and they have links all over. And therefore, it should not be difficult for us to get data. But just the idea of how sometimes people will think that I have been able to find funds to make a research, and the information that I have is only restricted to my use. I think we should start, that's why we are also asking for cooperation. That is, if we are all working together for the life of our own people, then data sharing should not be a difficult thing. There is something which I believe the statistical services has not been able to provide because they are not getting the kind of information that they need. One will ask, why do we have to do census? We do census in order to have an idea of how many people you, the government, are supposed to take care of in terms of health, education, and so on and so forth. Now, if that information is not there, and you are relying on information in 1960, I think 63, when we were told that our population was, is it 5 million or so, and you are relying on that, only on that information, you will find that the resources that you make available will not reach everywhere. There was also the issue of leveraging, and of course the statement that I made a few minutes ago links to the fellows of the academy. The fellows of the academy are distinguished scholars, a lot of them scientists in the different areas of natural sciences, medical sciences, social sciences. And many of the things that we are talking about are things which pass through their own lenses of learning, and therefore we are able to relate to our colleagues in the universities to assign students to do projects. Now, doing projects is not an easy assignment because it costs money. And the academy has plans to be able to develop ideas that will, bankable ideas that will attract funding so that the universities, our young students can be engaged in searching for information. In fact, the areas for research is very huge, very, very huge. But because there is shortage of money or funding, sometimes we are not able to do what we would like to do. But it's always very good for the academy to pronounce these things out so anybody who hears about them and has the opportunity or will be able to get the possibility of attracting some kind of funding, then those things can be done with. So I'll pause for a moment. If there are any more, I'll pick them up and provide answers that are required.
Thank you very much. I'm fortunate to be an external examiner at University of Ghana and School of Nuclear and Allied Sciences. And I've been able to look at PhD thesis on mining activities in the Amman area, Achempim, Obuasi, Takwa, to find the threshold levels of wastage water in these areas. Fortunately enough, they are able to get the threshold levels and the people are safe in these areas. The theses are in the library. Data, a lot of data in this thesis. It's not benefiting the public. So here is the case, as the previous speaker said, information should be made available. Recent documentary by Joy News with a laboratory in Kumasi, going around all the Galamsey areas, taking water samples to find the elemental composition of this water, tells us that health-wise, we are not safe. So if all these data are available, and these institutions are available, and we are able to relate with them and come out with solutions, I think it would be a best way or a method for appropriate practice in our mining industry. Data is available, but data is shelved. What is the next approach to get this data for action? Thank you.
Please, if you have any more questions, kindly raise your hand so we give the mic to you. And contributions. Since you've spoken already.
Thank you. I'm Roland Asari, a senior research scientist from STEPRI. And I want to just add on to what the last speaker just said about data. And I totally agree with him that data is not much of a problem. But the whole issue has to do with how do you put all this data together? Because, for example, if you go to the universities, they have a lot of information. And myself, I just completed my PhD, and my thesis was on heavy metal levels in Etiwa area. And I'm very ready to share it when with the need arises. And my senior colleague here, Dr. Colin Stay, I know he has worked extensively on, mining areas and heavy metals in mining areas. And even if I should tell him, I really scrutinize your thesis. And yes, so for me, I totally agree with you. Data is not a problem. How to put the data into, maybe if you have to crystallize the data to meet the expectation of the public, that's what you have to think about going forward. But as for data, as far as from my side, I think data is readily available, especially from the thesis from the various universities. A lot of work has been done in the mining areas. And if you put all these things together, it should be able to help us in our decision-making going forward. And I must also say that from my end, for example, I just want to talk a little bit about Etiwa area. Going into the research, the whole idea was I thought maybe, they were not mining deep. It's just alluvial mining, so they were just mining on the surface. So the idea was that I was not expecting that the heavy metal levels would be that high, but it's so surprisingly, the levels that I obtained from the research was very alarming. So it tells us that we still have a lot of work to do. But the next step is to have someone to take up to the next level to see how much the levels of heavy metals in the various foodstuffs in the area. So for data, a lot of them are available. It's just a matter of us knowing what we want and putting them together to present to the policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin Stay. Yes, I think that my colleague has actually nailed it very lightly. And the other speaker who stood here and also spoke on saying or regarding the fact that there is data is available. It is really very true that data is available. As a country, if you're looking for data on mining and its effects on the environment, water resources, soil, and all that, I think that we have gotten data which we can translate into policies. even before the Galam stop activities, as he has said, we have done lots of work on mining activities. My PhD was also looking at the mining. Part of it was impact of the mining on water resources in the lower Pra Basin. And the data is there. Quite apart from that, as researchers in Water Research Institute, we have done lots and lots of work in terms of mining and its impact on our environment. And then when the Galam stop activities started, I remember the WRC contracted the WRI to do some assessment on the impact of the Galamsey activities before and after. And so during the Galam stop, before the Galam stop, we conducted numerous research and saw the levels of the impact, especially the color, the turbidity, the suspended solids and all that. And we all know that the colors of our waters, all over, except for perhaps the Volta Lake, it's nothing to write home about. And I remember vividly that in the past, my colleagues at the Ghana Water Company in the Western region kept telling and warning us that due to the levels of the turbidity, TSS, the alum they have been using to treat the water, but they need at the point they needed to use about 3 times or 4 times, and because of that, the cost of treatment of the water at their end was becoming really a problem, and therefore they even warned that if it should continue like that, the Ghana Water Company at the Western region will have to shut down. And I remember it has ever been shut down to the extent that the waters that were flowing in their taps in their homes, we all saw them. I think that we have moved beyond data. What we need currently is how to turn this data into policies. And we need the political will in order to overcome this mining impact on our water resources and the environment in general. Thank you very much.
Yes, Prof. I was happy when you mentioned about the mining in forest reserve, especially the regulation LI 2462. Just a few days ago, we presented a petition to the presidency and to Parliament to repeal the law. Indeed, let me just add that the law will not only deteriorate our already bad conditions, it will make nonsense of the existence of Forestry Commission and the timber industry and the study of forestry as an academic or professional subject. Indeed, if every forest reserve is eligible for mining, what are we protecting? Nothing. So I'll add my voice to what you just said and to urge the president to repeal the law. Indeed, I am aware that by the constitutional provision, every agreement in relation to natural resources have to be ratified by Parliament. Even before that law is repealed, we urge Parliament that all the concessions or the mining leases that have been signed in forest reserve, and if they come before Parliament, we urge Parliament not to ratify them, as it will just open a floodgate for the complete destruction of our forest reserve. And indeed, but we're not thinking about the impact of it on even our fragile cocoa system, because the cocoa environment is only maintained by the forest we have. If the forest is gone, our cocoa industry will just go down like that. So thank you.
Prof, mine is a suggestion that if, as I'm working with an NGO, we are interested in mining, so if it's possible, we could have a working group within the academy where you have your papers, we can distill it in a way communities will understand it. So in our advocacy, in our education, then the communities will know what is really happening. Whilst we are talking to policymakers, there we can also have an action there. When they know what is happening to them with respect to surface mining, the impacts that are happening and how vulnerable they are. Once the education goes, then together with the traditional leaders, we can make an impact over there. So if that can be done, so that we have that collaboration when it comes to research, we can also go to the field and then do the education there. Thank you.
Maybe I'll be the last person. I'm Christian, TV3. So there is a question lingering on my mind, and I want to ask all of us. So we keep saying that we need the political will to transform some of these great data into policies and what have you. Beyond the political will, what can we do to salvage our environment? Because your statement boldly states that successive governments have shown unpreparedness, have shown unwillingness and what have you to fight this. This area we're talking about, the debate here and there. So clearly it seems that over the years, it has been a chronic menace that we are dealing with. So beyond the political will, if we don't get the politicians to help us to enact the drastic policies to end this, what happens then?
I want to bring your attention to one advert which some time ago was advertising for electric cables. It talked about cable metal. And what it said was, electricity doesn't have legs. It's cable metal that carries the electricity. The comment that came just a few minutes ago is something which has triggered this particular remembrance. You see, as an academy, we are out there asking for support. We may have ideas, but it is not possible for us to actually go down to all the people. Because as I said, we organize workshops, we organize lectures and so on, but we are not able probably to get down to the roots. So that suggestion which has been made by an NGO group talking about having a working group that will help to distill the information, I think that will be helpful. Because see, one thing that we lack in the country is the national institutions which have been given the responsibility of educating people, the public. A lot of them are not actually up to scratch. So if it were a situation where at the time that we were changing from driving on the left, this was 1974, to drive on the right. And that catchphrase, defa, in other words, sensitizing people to the fact that we have now changed from driving on the left to driving on the right. Defa, and that helped within that short period for people to think that now you don't, even though your steering wheel, because those days all our steering wheels were on the right side of the vehicle. Now, you are going to be driving on the right side of the vehicle, which means if you look beyond, you will only be seeing the gutter. But people quickly got sensitized and they changed. And I must say, in 1974, I was then a very young lecturer, and I had a small car. And I do not remember any major accident in this country at that time, 1974. Those who may be in my age bracket can bail me out. This was because of the sensitivity of the way that the message went down to the people. If it is possible that we can get that kind of attitude where people's mindset will change. Let's begin with plastics, for example. The whole idea, thinking that bola is anything that you don't need. And usually we were throwing things away which were biodegradable. Now plastic arrives, and we're still going through the same process of throwing things away, which this time are not biodegradable. A change of attitude has to change. I think these are some of the things which we would like you, the civil society organizations, to help us to educate the people. Because there's no way you can change the mindset of people if in their mind what they know is lawyer norco. I'm bringing all these things as, as anecdotes because when you look at the psychology of thinking of people, like this is the direction I'm going, and that's the same direction because that is how we did it the other time. Is it possible that we can change, have a different mindset? And that's the challenge that we would like to give to you, media practitioners. Help us to educate the people. There are institutions in this country. NCC is one kind of example of an institution that is supposed to be educating people. I don't know how many times these days in schools, teachers examine the nails of children. I don't know how many times in schools, teachers virtually have a time to look into the hair to see if there are any idue, or have time to look at the foot and look at the fingers, the leg, the toes, to look at the toes. Is it the toes? Okay. In between them, whether there are any jiggers. I'm still talking about health, the environment in which we have lived in. But because there was a concerted effort by people at the ground to educate the people, most of these diseases or illnesses vanished because we got the solution. So this menace, this environmental menace, where we now have people standing up as those who control our lives, that I have a cocoa farm and you come to me and say, I want to dig gold in your cocoa farm, sell it to me. And if you don't sell it to me, I do everything to make sure that you actually will sell it to me. I mean, we ought to be able to get beyond this kind of situation. My other point that I wanted to make, and again, is based on the issue of data. 2 weeks ago, Water Research Institute organized an open forum. And the information that churned out from there, and I'm happy that my colleague Colin is referring to them, where there were questions about lead and so on and so forth, which is in the water. What are we doing? I mean, these are the kind of things which are information which our institutions have. So all that we are trying to say here, we have the data, but the data has to be synthesized into a point where we can actually draw lines into them and say, this is the way it will go if it happens like bringing in scenarios. Let's challenge ourselves for that. And the academy is interested for any organizations or any institutions that can come with ideas on first developing scenario workings. Because sometimes if you use graphics, people catch the meaning very quickly than if you use words to explain. So if I have a concentric circle, and the concentric circle is supposed to be in a particular range, and that circle is either widening or closing, within an eye shot, in a period of widening, everybody can see that there is a widening that is happening. And that is the technology behind film production. You know, you pick several frames and you put them together to develop a scenario. I think we want to challenge our researchers, you know, because for us as an academy, we are available. We would like to support anything that will help us to reach the hearts of Ghanaians who, by God's grace, have been trained and are able to use their minds to do something very good for this country, not to destroy this country.
Yeah, let me also add to the comments. The proposal that we collaborate with you to go to the grassroots or rural areas to educate or open their eyes about the invisible things that could be killing them. I think that's very important. And I would like to get your information so that we can be in touch with you to support that activity. The second thing that I want to comment on the TV3 comment, that there's been many attempts by governments and nothing has happened, right? And therefore, it's like the statement said, we have become helpless because we don't know what to do, right? But every problem should be broken into smaller pieces. So for example, if you are interested in the repeal of the act, then those of us interested in that should form a coalition and do the maximum we can to stop that particular one. In the same way, if we think that some things have to be done and the people are not doing it, then we should come together, bring interested parties, and put pressure on the people to do what they have to do. So I think part of the nothing happening is because we have all become spectators. And we think something will happen because the philosopher Keynes will do the right thing for us. But history has people also making their leaders do things. And so we have to learn how we balance those two things, to be assertive and to make sure that what is right should be done, and not sit passively and say they should do it, and if they don't do it, then what can we do? So that will be my comment to it. So let's form coalitions around different themes that this statement has raised. If you're interested in health, our health chapter can work with you. If you're interested in the environment, they can work with you. If you're interested in the social aspect, our economic chapter can also work with you. So we want to be part of everybody who is trying to get something done to stop this calamity, this devastation. And as I said in my introduction, if we don't do anything, the time will come when people will say, why did they let their country get destroyed and did nothing?
I would like to emphasize on what the TV3 man asked. He said, beyond the political world, what next? But in our statement, you realize that we have suggested that there should be geospatial analysis in 10 years using remote sensing on the areas that are affected. It will interest you to note that the multinationals, that is Newmont, after mining in a vast area, has to contact CSIR, Forest Section, to plant trees to reclaim the land. They realize that environmentally, they've degraded the area. But in terms of illegal mining, they do it and leave it. So this is the time academy should give the initiative and see how best the geospatial analysis can be more effective and see how best these distractions can be reclaimed. So we need everybody on board to see how best we can solve this problem. Thank you.
Just a small contribution from a slightly different angle. You just mentioned Newmont, which a big company has a concession and they are mining. The problem is not so much with the big companies. And it's also not from the grassroots as such. It is from those who are up there. In my village, there is a stream, and just beyond it, the cocoa farms. When I went, the stream has dried up, and they are mining sand from the cocoa, and the cocoa trees are hanging with no soil under around the roots. The people are helpless. It's not the indigents, the small ones. It's the big ones who come, and they say they want, like you said, they want to buy the cocoa farm. You can't say, I won't even sell it to you. Before you realize, they are already digging around it. And the people feel helpless. They feel helpless because they cannot challenge the big people. It is very, very sad. In fact, the statement said that we should require of political parties to enshrine in their manifesto how they intend dealing with this menace, and we should hold them accountable. I'm wondering how we are going, while they are in office. We know that it has been stated by the president that he will put his presidency online if he fails to deal with the Galamsey menace. He is in office now. And today we are having this kind of statement. How are we going to hold him accountable? Or are we holding him accountable? If we can't do it now, then maybe we are just, dreaming into the future. If somebody else comes, we'll hold him accountable. It's happening now. How do we hold political parties accountable or big people accountable when they are in office? That is what I want us to think about. It's not so, don't let us look at the grassroots and whatnot. It's the people who are forcing it down their throats who we should be holding accountable. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. To still emphasize what my colleague said at the other side, and also to speak to the TV3 question on what do we do beyond the politicians not yielding to whatever it is we said. Unfortunately, we cannot do without them. And I want to thank Prof for coming up with the suggestion of coming up with coalitions. I think that is the way to go. Because we cannot leave the politician out of this. Because they are at the forefront doing the things we see them do. I happened to go into a discussions some time ago with my colleagues here At the ministry, we at the time met a minister to discuss certain things regarding our welfare. And I remember in those days, the politician actually acknowledged, I don't want to mention the name, he actually acknowledged the fact that we are the technical people and they are the politicians. They dream and yet do not know how to realize the dreams. And they know that it is you, the technical, it is us, the technical people, who will help them realize that dream. And he gave a vivid, example that you see, I am an MP. I have a constituent. Apart from the fact that I'm a minister, I am an MP, and I have a constituent. You see the chair I sit on. I, as an individual, would want to continue sitting on this chair for as long as my constituents allow me. And you know one thing, I know you are the technical people. Assuming I want to get a toilet facility for my people, and assuming the community is this circumference, we would need to do EIA. Good. Now, so we will call on you, the technical people, to submit a EIA report to us. Now, when you do, and the report says that we should, put the toilet here, and my people tell me that I should put it at that corner, I will put it in that corner and not what the technical people are saying. And I remember asking him, why? He told me, yes, when it is time for me to get elected or re-elected into office, you, these technical people, will not be there. It is my people out there who will decide to vote me again. I need those votes, and so I will put it where they want me to put it. I left his office very disappointed. Because you see, I did not know, I was asking myself whether, is it the case that they know or understand what is going on and yet don't care? Or it is a case of, I really do not know what is going on. And so I need someone to help explain these things to me. But by the time I left that office that day, I knew that it is the case of I know what is going on, but I don't care because of my interest. And I want to also send a message to my colleagues of the media that they are also part of our problems because they actually know what is going on. And most of the times they know evil is going on, yet they won't talk about it. Other times, when they want to even talk about the issues, they bring the politicians, NDC, MPP, talking about mining. Meanwhile, those people, sorry to say, that they might not have the background. They are politicians. And so whatever it is that they'll be, churning out is politics. And you know what politics means in Ghana? Deceit. So I would plead with you people that when you really want to talk about issues concerning mining and other health and other things, please do get the experts and let them advise us. And let's stop this business of always, looking for the next opportunity to engage politicians to address, topical issues that affect the very fabric of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the press. We thank you for the contributions that you have given and also the contributions that have come from our research people and other interested individuals. I've already talked about data synthesis. I think that's one thing that, as an academy, we are going to get ourselves engaged in. If there are issues to do with heavy metals pollution, we need to be able to get all those people who have done work in them, provide us with the information, and then we'll get it out there to develop policy areas which will then receive the attention of everybody, particularly decision makers. See, sometimes we talk of government and we are looking up to the Jubilee House. Government is also us. I think in 2 days or 3 days, we're going to have assembly elections. Those people who take decisions at the assembly level, for me, they are the most important people that we need to engage. Anyway, so we will do that data issue of synthesizing. We'll also get ourselves involved in identifying CSOs and other individuals or other organizations who have similar ideas that link to what we can do in order to ameliorate the problems that we have in our environment as a result of illegal mining. Another thing which, based on the last comment that I heard here, which relates to the Ghanaian personality, the question is, do you love your country? And that is a moral question. Moral question in the sense that you are at the frontier. You are the desk officer. You are the technocrat. You are the one who will provide information that is needed to either undo or do a harm. I think we need to get again to the stage where we will not think of money, but we will think more of the moral obligations that falls on you as a Ghanaian placed in a very sensitive area in the national economy. Are you going to sell your country for a pittance? Or you are going to save your country because there are large numbers of individuals who are yet unborn, but many of them can be presidents in the future? And I'm bringing in the moral part now because I hesitated bringing it, but I believe that anyone who loves his country will not betray the country. Now, betrayal is in various forms. Betrayal is leading out the secrets of your country to, like, Chinese. What do they know about any areas that we have that are for mining? It is us. We give that information. That's a betrayal. A betrayal is another situation where you are taking a bribe to look on the other side of a document which has so many doubts, but you pass it on. I mean, there are many, many areas which are happening. And so, yes, the political will may be there, but the individuals who are pushing to have the political will, I think our moral level should be understood. So, oh, Nana, please, the floor is open for Nana. So I am concluding my remark, but Nana is going to conclude. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. As I said, my name is Nana S.K.B. Asante. I happen to be a chief, also a fellow of the Academy. I just want to respond to the question, what do we do? Recently, as Paramount Chief of Asante Asokore in Ashanti, with the consent of the Asokore Traditional Council, we sent a petition to the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources opposing the grant of mining rights to a certain company. We saw that a gazette had been published naming certain areas in the country, including one village in my traditional area, and saying that concessions are about to be awarded to certain companies in these areas. If anybody has an interest in the sense of if you have land rights there, write to the Minerals Commission. This publication came from the Minerals Commission. I would want to say that before the publication came out, there had been no consultation with the paramount chief, the traditional council, the district chief executive, the people who are occupying the area, Senchi. And we are talking about politicians. There's no doubt that politicians number, but the technocrats in the public service, this is coming from the Minerals Commission. As we sit here, discussing these things, the Mineral Commission is entertaining applications for surface mining and granting them, completely oblivious of all the concerns that we are expressing. So I mentioned this to say that despite the structure of laws and so forth, one traditional council led by me said, we don't want it. Some time ago, 15 years ago, an attempt was made. At that time, they sought my support, and I said, we don't want it. And we were supported then by the Ghana Water Company. We say that the grant of that license will lead to the destruction of a certain water body. I cited that in my resistance this time. So when a community is faced with a situation, the community can be galvanized, and then maybe with coalition actually protest in some way. I'm not sure that this will necessarily prevail, but that is my answer to the question, what do we do if the politicians are not operating? Let's organize ourselves, let's make our feelings known, let's seek support. When I was sending that petition, I quoted a certain portion in anticipation of this statement. And I'm going to sort of carry this statement around. This is what the Ghana Academy of Arts and Science is saying. So there are two things that I want to emphasize. How the system operates through a technocracy without consultation with people, and so forth and so on. So it's not only the politicians, the Minerals Commission, whoever constitutes the Mineral Commission, and its chief executive are doing these things, going on, as if there's no concern. Now, if surface mining is being granted, being allowed, it's very difficult to stop galamsey. Because people in my area, like other areas, said, why do you allow people from outside to come and explore or actually take away the mineral from our area? And say that we ourselves kind of use our even antiquated methods to do a little local mining, which will give them some money. So it's a very, very complex matter, and we should all do what we can. But I believe in community people are also saying that we don't like this. This is harmful to us. And whatever we have to do with the support of the media and so forth in order to galvanize the people to resist this, we have to do it as a matter of democratic organization to show the political leaders that this is not acceptable. Thank you very much.
So, on that note from Nana, Nana was the president of the Academy some years back. And there's another past president of the Academy, again some years back, also present here. I want to draw the curtain. In other words, bringing our proceedings to a close. But before I do that, let me, on behalf of the President, Vice Presidents of the Academy, past Presidents of the Academy, past Vice Presidents of the Academy, and Fellows of the Academy, say a hearty thank you to you, the press. We called you here to give you an idea of what we, as one learned society of this country, think about the issue of Galamsey. And I'm sure you have heard enough. The suggestions that have come, I'm sure you are also going to dilate on that and give a lot of meaning to these for the reading public or the hearing public of our country. So, without much ado, just say thank you and let the joy of knowing that you are a Ghanaian, let the spirit of knowing that you are motivated to protect our country, because sometimes I go back to those national pledges I've been through from 1957 through the national pledges that we have always pledged. Loyalty to our country. Let us continue to be loyal to our country, because if we are loyal, of course, many of the things that are happening, we can stop them right at the beginning. So if you are a parliamentary leader, loyalty to your country will dictate that it doesn't matter whether your people vote for you or do not vote for you. Speak the truth to them. It's the truth which has always eluded us as Ghanaians. And I think this is the beginning of removing that canker of untruthfulness among us. Thank you very much.